Good morning, early game crew. It's technically not a football Friday in a sense that we're breaking down a South Carolina Gamecock football game. We don't have the cool imaging and all that kind of stuff.
No, it's been broken down.
Over. But it's still Football Friday in our hearts. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we're going to get you ready for Conference Championship Weekend, which starts technically tonight. We have a lot of champions crowned tonight because Justin Hall and I will be in Orangeburg for the state championship games. We'll be there for specifically Irmo Northwestern and recapping and previewing the games ahead. But there will also be some conference championship games played tonight in a few leagues across this great nation. And then, of course, tomorrow, SEC title game, Big 12 title game. We'll go in chronological order. Big 12 title game starts first. And then after that game, leads you right in to the SEC championship. And then after that, leads you right into the Big 10 championship, which is number 1 versus number 2, Ohio State, Indiana. And then simultaneously on ABC, because Big 10's on Fox, CBS really got squeezed out of this, didn't they? On ABC will be Duke, Virginia, which only interesting because of the chaos that it can cause. We'll get more into that later. But there is South Carolina football news to get to.
A lot.
Because good day yesterday. I mean, was day 2 of signing day better than the original signing day?
So that's the thing about doing a morning show is that we don't break news because things are not happening. So we're usually talking about things, and then oftentimes we can get on here and have had a whole show about a topic, and then that topic can change immediately after we get off the air. But we did have a long conversation about signing day and who was signing and who wasn't, specifically who hadn't signed yet or who was flipping. And there were some things that happened yesterday. That's
right. Landon Duckworth, 4-star quarterback who has been committed to South Carolina since July.
2 times.
2-time commitment winner. There was a little bit of rumor, scuttlebutt, if you will, that LSU got into the mix very late. Lane Kiffin's hiring by LSU made it an awfully intriguing proposition. Ole Miss, who was number 2, I guess. I think it was Ole Miss and Auburn were the 2 other schools jockeying for Lane and Duckworth's services. Maybe a lot of that was Lane Kiffin, but it's like, I don't want to go to Ole Miss. Well, then he goes to LSU, and it's like, okay, well, maybe. And it was looking like that flip was a real possibility, enough to where we were kind of talking about backup options for South Carolina, right? If he were to have taken the spot at LSU, what are your backup options in terms of quarterback for the future type deal? However, as I'm walking out of this building yesterday around lunchtime, I see where Landon Duckworth signed his NLI with South Carolina and said, sorry, Lane, I got to do something you're very familiar with. Let's bail on you. The tables will turn right now.
Don't hate the play, hit the game, Lane. That's how it goes. It's it happened. He signed. I don't know. We don't know what the temperature was in the building, what the conversations were, how close he was to flipping. Was he going to flip? Was he just taking a second to listen? Because as I mentioned, it was the beginning of signing day, right? It's not the end of signing. It's not the last day you can sign. It's the first day you can sign. So really, realistically, he didn't have to sign yesterday either, right? He could have taken his time and listened to all possible things because it's still early signing day, even though most people do get that out the way. So all of that being said, the circumstances changed. He recommitted. I would say he probably recommitted. I won't even say he held on to his commitment. He probably recommitted to South Carolina, signed, and so he made his intentions. But what's really interesting to me is that, like everything, if he would have went to Baton Rouge, it would have been, NIL. Oh, the pockets are so deep. When he commits to us, culture.
It's like the sneaky athletic thing. Oh, culture. At a place like South Carolina, it's, culture. But and that's always the thing. If it's with your team, it's culture. If he flips to somebody else, It's money. Because how much you want to bet there are LSU fans and message boards that are saying, oh, South Carolina just dropped a bag on them. No one would ever pick South Carolina over us. They dropped a bag, as if you don't have endless resources and $25 additional million you can spend in addition to the rev share.
Yeah, and so this is really an interesting commitment because we've followed Landon for a long time now because he's been on our radar. He's been around. I would really like to know, in essence, what was the deciding factor behind him committing to South Carolina, because we laid out a lot of the reasons why he might have been looking elsewhere. 4-8 season, no offensive coordinator, which maybe there is. That might be part of the conversation.
That could be why. We have clues.
No offensive coordinator, no quarterback coach, a possible returning guy. So there's a lot of things that, for me, I was like, I could see him maybe looking other ways, but came through, got it done. So kudos to the coaching staff for landing that.
And remember on our Garnet Glasses segment earlier in the week where we're talking about National Signing Day, and it's like, okay, the optimism is we keep all the ones who are committed and we get a flip or two. Well, ask and you shall receive, because South Carolina got Julian Walker, Dutch Fork standout, who was originally committed to Michigan, to sign his NLI with South Carolina. It's another 4-star prospect according to On3. And after Julian Walker signed and flipped from Michigan, and after Tristan Lewis from Greenwood, who had an incredible year with Greenwood, also signed, South Carolina now, according to On3 and Rivals, the number 15 recruiting class in the country. So we said, okay, do you like top 20 recruiting classes? Great. South Carolina is a top 20 recruiting class. Well, now here I am a couple days later making an addendum to that. Do you guys like top 15 recruiting classes? I do. You're technically one of them.
And again, we talked about the importance of high school recruiting. We talked about the idea that the lifeline of all these great teams that you see playing in these championship games build their rosters through high school recruiting. So regardless of what the portal offers, you're going to have to get in there. You're going to have to find some supplementary pieces, but you have to win the high school game. And so this is another – they've done well. They've done well. And this is not Garnet Glasses time, so I don't have my Garnet Glasses time. So I guess I would say we've done well in recruiting. We're very close to the blue chip ratio. I think a lot of people would be asking, what's up?
Yeah, because if you look at the top 15 in recruiting right now, according to On3 and Rivals, there is only one other team that finished 4-8 also.
Who's that?
Florida.
They don't have they got a new coach.
They have a new coach. And Florida's at 13. Florida State is at 14. Now, they went 5-7. Like, were they 5-7 or 6-6?
We were worse than Florida State this year.
I think Florida State might have actually missed a bowl game.
We were worse than Florida State this year. Were we? Seriously?
Yeah. Florida State was not again. Florida State also went to Florida and got beat. That one, like, maybe surprisingly, was that deep. I thought Florida State probably could have pulled that one off. Yeah, Florida State 5-7 will miss a bowl game. 0-5 on the road. Sound familiar? But yeah, there are only three teams in the top 15 that did not make bowl games this year. We're not bowl eligible. You're one of the three. However, the other two programs are Florida, who, like you just pointed out, got another coach, and Florida State, pretty resource heavy over there. No matter how bad they are, what they do with their resources.
Well, also yes, pretty resource heavy. But like you said, Florida has a new coach. Mike Norvell's seat has been scorching.
Yep.
Right.
What did I tell you?
That kind of puts us in that conversation.
Windhorst finger pointing here.
Absolutely.
But here's another thing I noticed that I wanted to point out too. A lot of these recruiting rankings are kind of fueled by volume, right? Like Southern Cal's got the number 1 recruiting class in the country, and they have 35 total commits, right? Like 13 3-stars, 21 4-stars, and a 5-star. That's good enough to be the number 1 recruiting class in the country, despite Notre Dame having 4 5-star players and Oregon having 5 1-star players, right? But the fact that Southern Cal has so many and it's such a large class, with whatever algorithm it is that they use or whatever formula they use to get these class rankings done, Southern Cal is kind of thrusted to the top. But I noticed one thing too. Out of the teams in the top 15, only 2 teams have 15 signees or fewer. And that is South Carolina and LSU, which tells me what these recruiting websites and services really value is the quality in your class, not just the quantity. I think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, because you just don't want to bring in numbers because inevitably there's going to be a churn rate and there's going to be folks that don't stick and there's going to be folks that don't stay and there's going to be folks that don't pan out. So you want to try and be more precise in who and you get, especially when if we're talking money involved, right? You don't want to be committing resources to people that you don't think are going to pan out or just taking chances, which was a strategy in recruiting classes in the past. So yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But on the flip side of that, that means they got to hit.
They have to hit, yeah. Your margin for error is a lot slimmer. They have to hit, and part of them hitting is you developing them. Now, if we want to go back to the Brian Windhorst finger-pointing meme here, Landon Duckworth commits, which means he probably was told something maybe, about the offensive coordinator situation, because that's one of the things that we said might deter a quarterback from picking you. And Marquell Blackwell, the running backs coach for South Carolina, also relieved of his duties yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting my Brian Windhorst finger-pointing hat on right now. Does that mean that an OC is lined up and they're still coaching right now?
Who? Okay, I don't...
They want to bring in their staff.
Take the first part. Possibly. I do think, if not given a person, maybe given one or two people that, hey, Landon, this is what the situation is going to be. We're down to these 2 people. As soon as I make a decision, I will let you know. That could be it. Or he could have been told an actual person. This is our target. This is who we're going after. Do you like him? Cool. Moving forward. I don't think the Marquell Blackwell news is as connected to the OC as maybe the Landon is, because I think that's going to be Shane's call. And the running back coach does not typically travel with the OC. Now, O-line guy does oftentimes.
Okay, so O-line guy potentially.
O-line guy potentially does, which there is a spot there. But the running back coach does not typically make that journey
move with them.
with the OC.
The only thing that would lead me to believe that is the leverage that the offensive coordinator is going to come in is going to have, just because this isn't like refilling a spot where somebody left.
Mm-hmm.
This is you trying to help turn a program around.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other OC jobs that have just opened, like Texas A&M just opened with Colin Klein leaving Texas A&M as their play caller to be the head coach at Kansas State with Coach Kleinman's retirement. So that tells me maybe if somebody does, they say, hey, if you are going to take me and I want to turn down another job, maybe I get a little bit of extra say in who is on the coaching staff.
Yes. You want to make as many choices as possible. So, yeah, in that note, maybe he doesn't bring him with him, but he does get a chance to choose who he wants.
Choose, yes. So something to think about, too. We're all putting on, I don't want to say tinfoil hats, but just trying to connect dots.
Do you trust a high school kid with that kind of information, though? Like, hey, we've got it narrowed down to 2 people, or you tell them who these 2 people are, like, I don't know. Do you?
That's a good point.
If you do, then you have to really feel good about it, because if you, like, let's just say hypothetically, you threw out 2 names, but neither of them come, then the relationship's off to a rocky start. However, if he says, hey, it's one of these 2 people, or he says, it's this person, and that does come to fruition, then there's a base element of trust that you've already established before they even step on campus.
But does a high school kid zip his lip, like how do you trust him not to say, oh man, I got a scoop for you,
At 18, that would have been me. I'm not gonna lie, that would have been me at 18.
Yeah.
I was so loose.
I'd be playing telephone. Yeah. Oh man, don't tell anybody, but this is what's going on.
You didn't hear this from me.
Yeah. See, you didn't hear this one from me. Us and I will learn a lot later in life. Yesterday, though, we did break down a potential scenario where one of our offensive coordinator wish lists, the first offensive coordinator we endorsed as a show, was Kevin Decker at Old Dominion. I would like to nominate a second offensive coordinator, one which maybe could also be a quarterback package deal. We'll tell you who that is coming up next here in the early game.
Not seeing any significant slowdowns this morning, so we hope that your Friday morning goes well without a hitch. And as far as the weather goes, yeah, that could be a different story. Going to expect rain today. Heavier chances of rain really through about lunchtime, then sort of tapering off this afternoon, but still rain in the forecast today. High of 48. Scattered showers tomorrow. High of only 51. A few showers, so lessen chances on Sunday for rain. And a high also of 51, but it's a little bit on the cooler side. We're looking at some clouds and 47 on 107.5 The Game.
There's a real trend in college football where an offensive coordinator takes a job somewhere or a head coach, and they bring their luggage, or as Deion Sanders referred to it, he's bringing luggage, and he's got Louis.
It's Louis.
It's good. And yesterday, when talking about our offensive coordinator wish list, right, we first officially endorsed Kevin Decker, the offensive coordinator at Old Dominion. We also said, maybe it'd be enticing for him to have his quarterback come with him, right? His quarterback, Colton Joseph, who ran for 1,000 yards this year, threw for 2,600.
Nice.
That's enticing. And when we watched them, some clips of the offense, a lot of the stuff they do, a lot of the blocking schemes. And to me, it was like watching Haynes King and Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was watching that Georgia Tech offense move, right? You have pulling all these guards, getting into space. You have the quarterback run, breaking tackles.
I'd position that he was a little bit sneakier and a little bit more athletic than Haynes King.
Sneakier and more sneaky athletic than Haynes King?
I would position.
Than the Texas Hainsaw Massacre?
I would position that.
Oh, man. That is high praise, because I think if we had a poster boy for sneaky athletic in college football, like if we had to give what I would call, I don't know, who do we name this award after? Julian Edelman? Is it the Julian Edelman Award, the Cooper DeJean Award?
It's a long line.
We give our Cooper DeJean Award of the year to Haynes King. You might say, Colton Joseph at Old Dominion might actually take the cake.
I'm just telling you, he got a little bit of
wiggle to him.
Got a little bit
of wiggle. Well, Devin Dampier, not as sneaky athletic, but still very athletic.
athletic.
Yeah, he's athletic on paper and in practice, right? Who's thrown for 2,100 yards this year, almost 22, and has rushed for not nearly as many yards, almost 700.
Okay.
But this Utah offensive coordinator by Jason Beck, who is my second nominee for this position. That's why I brought up Devin Dampier in Utah. What he's done to that Utah offense by bringing in his quarterback, who was his quarterback at New Mexico. So in 2024, Jason Beck was calling the plays at New Mexico. Devin Dampier was his quarterback. They're a package deal that goes to Utah, and Utah's offense goes from scoring 23 points per game in 2024 to over 41 in 2025, and is a top 6 scoring offense in college football with a dual threat quarterback and an offense that goes burr.
Yeah, and Jason Beck is really intriguing to me because for me, if you're good enough for Kyle Whittingham, you're good enough for me because that's my guy.
That's your guy.
So if Kyle hired you, I am with you. Also, he worked on the Bronco Mendenhall, another guy I highly respect in the coaching profession. So if those two dudes stamp you, I'm definitely intrigued because I think the world of those two dudes as football coaches.
Bronco Mendenhall too. offensive mind, like a really good offensive mind. So he's gotten to learn from somebody. That's maybe the difference, I guess, between Kevin Decker and someone like Jason Beck is Kevin Decker kind of feels like he's innovated his own type thing because he was at Fordham and then put up a ton of points, a ton of yards at Fordham, then goes to Old Dominion as an instant success in terms of turning their offense around. Jason Beck has his pottery that has been molded by someone like Bronco Mendenhall and then got the freedom to coach his offense under Kyle Whittingham, who is more of a defensive-minded coach, meaning he got a lot of opportunity to be able to do the play calling. That's always some of the hesitancy I have with some people. Like, I know Kendall Briles is a name that a lot of Gamecock fans have mentioned, and I find that to be intriguing, right? But I don't know exactly how much free reign Kendall Briles had in that offense with Sonny Dykes being the head coach, because Sonny Dykes has normally been the primary play caller. If he's the head coach somewhere, he's normally the one calling the plays.
It's to bring it home. That's like Travarius Robinson being the DC under Will Muschamp.
Yes.
You're not the DC.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like in on paper, yes, for a raise, cool, but we know Champ is running this thing. And so you are hesitant to hire somebody who has been so much under the, I won't say under the thumb, but really under the tutelage, I guess, of that's two different things. I just came up with something. Sometimes you might be under the thumb of somebody where they're like telling you what to do, or you might be under the tutelage of somebody where they're teaching you what to do.
Guiding you.
I think there's a big difference in that.
So it's kind of like when Nick Saban had Kirby Smart as his defensive coordinator.
Tutelage.
Yes, you're at his tutelage. Even though from the outside looking in, you could say, well, who is really calling that defense? Because Nick Saban is the defensive mind, is one of the best defensive minds in the history of the sport, and we just didn't know Kirby Smart also had it like that until we saw him take the Georgia job and clearly do what he's done there. But I think time has told us that Kirby Smart was under Nick Saban's tutelage, not under his thumb, right? And it certainly seems like Jason Beck, when he was with Bronco Mendenhall, tutelage, maybe not under his thumb.
Yeah, I think that's, I just came to that. Maybe we might circle back around to that if we look at hires. But also the intriguing things about Jason Beck. Give a couple names here.
Ooh, I love names.
I'm going to start off with a banger. Are you familiar with one? Taysom Hill.
I am. I am very familiar with Taysom Hill. Big Taysom Hill guy here.
Taysom Hill.
Sneaky athletic.
Jason Beck coached Taysom Hill when he was at BYU. He was the quarterback's coach there, responsible for his development. It might be the Taysom Hill Award.
You know what? Sold. Sold. We can stop taking nominees for our sneaky athletic player of the year. It's going to be named in honor of Taysom Hill. It might be the
Taysom Hill Award. Jason Beck was his coach when he was at BYU, responsible for his development as a quarterback, as an athlete, molded him. I think that's really intriguing. Another one very important to Gamecock fans, Bryce Perkins.
Oh, I can't forget about Bryce Perkins.
And if you remember, if I triggered you, maybe I did. But Bryce Perkins was the quarterback of that Virginia team that we played in the Belt Bowl, who beat us 28-0. It was, some say that was the start of the ending for the Muschamp era. Bryce Perkins was the quarterback there. His quarterback coach, Jason Beck. There's something there.
There
right?
is a trend here. Bryce Perkins was one of my favorite college.
Bryce Perkins was a really fun player, and I would say Bryce Perkins, Taysom Hill, though they are both good, neither one of them are Lenora Sellers as far as the total package of a quarterback.
Yes.
And so if you're looking for some comparisons, this guy has done it on the college level with quarterbacks who are awesome, but not nearly as talented as Lenoris, I think. And then here's the last thing. You remember Lenoris was committed to 2 schools before he committed to South Carolina.
I remember one of them being with my boy Otto, the Orange, at Syracuse.
Mm-hmm. You know who's the quarterback coach at that?
Would that be one Jason Beck?
It would be.
Ooh.
You know where else Lenoris was committed to? Virginia. You know who was the quarterback coach there? Primary recruiter?
Would that be one Jason Beck? Dots. Connecting.
Might be something there.
Might be something there. Something to keep in mind as the early game gives its official second endorsement of an offensive coordinator candidate with one Jason Beck at Utah. Now, we haven't got to do this in a while, But Professor P is going to be back in session because with Marquell Blackwell being relieved of his duties, we're going to find out what running backs coach actually do. That's next.
Looking fairly good this morning. We do have a report of a slowdown I-77 southbound at I-26 Also, towards Elgin, Spears Creek Church Road near Jacobs Mill Pond Road. So a couple accidents to be careful about, and expect wet conditions today. Rain potentially heavy through at least lunchtime, tapering off a little bit, but expecting rain to continue off and on throughout the day. 48 is all we're going to get as far as your high. 51 tomorrow with some scattered showers. A little less shower activity on Sunday, but still in your forecast. 51 for the high. Right now, 47 with clouds and 107.5 The Game.
Class is in session, and we thought we had to put it in session because of the news yesterday that running backs coach Marquell Blackwell relieved of his duties, which made us want to discuss a little further what those duties of running backs coach can be and what they've been in Preston's past too. So that's why it's time for a little bit of Professor P action.
It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football, Wildcat football, Wildcat football, Wildcat football.
All right, the running backs coach. So every position on an offensive staff has what their things that they do on paper. The offensive line coaches the offensive line. The wide receivers coach the wide receivers. The running backs coach the running backs. That's what they do on paper. But what do they really do on the staff? Because that's the really important question when you start looking at putting together staffs. Everybody has to have roles outside of the role that they're on paper for. The running backs coach is what I would consider a +1 on any staff. His job is to add on besides what he does in the running back room, because to be very honest, running back is very instinctual. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of things about, man, can you run the ball or can you not? Yes, there obviously are some technique things that you need to learn, but it's very instinctual. So you're not necessarily coaching the physicality of a running back when you're coaching them. You may be coaching them mentally, right? Mm-hmm. Because they may or may not be a little bit fragile, maybe towards the wide receiver spectrum of personality type. Uh-huh. So you may be coaching them mentally, but ultimately your number one job as a running back coach is to add on to the staff. Now, where can you add on to the staff? Probably recruiting is the first part. When you talk about running back coaches, you usually hear the words ace recruiter, awesome recruiter, great recruiter are usually followed right behind the name of the running back coach. When you hear that, makes sense, and that's usually a known thing. Well, Marquell Blackwell has not brought in zero high school recruits. Was that by design? Was that the recruiting strategy? I don't know, but the fact is he has not. So that's one thing. The second thing the running back coach does is that he on game days, he's often responsible for substitutions, packages, things of that nature, communication in the sideline. We saw a lot of issues with that this year with the running backs, right? So much so that us as civilians were asking questions like, oh, hey, he just broke off a 55-yard run. He's not getting any more carries until the second half. Or we had the situation where Shane Beamer, through the press, said, oh, yeah, I told my coaches to get him more carries. I don't know what happened. Not good.
No.
Not a good spot. So the running back rotations for this team were always seemingly a little bit messed up. Then you have this situation where you had players that were playing earlier in the year in Rasul Faison and Oscar Attaway, who seemingly towards the end of the year were not playing. Whether that was the running backs coach, was that his decision, or was there a change in what the offensive coordinator saw? Because Mike Fury obviously saw something different than what Mike Shula saw. or Marquell was able to change his mind. We don't know the ins and outs of that building, but some of the running back coaches that have been here, and you can see what we're talking about. One, the legendary Buddy Pugh. So in Buddy Pugh, you're going to have a veteran head coach, legendary guy. He's adding on to the staff as a whole. He's probably coaching, guiding during that time, guiding Skip Holtz through the calls. He's sort of like a mentor-ish, the veteran of the group.
Like what Jerry Kill has become to Vanderbilt.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. So he's that position. Bobby Bentley was here as the running backs coach. If you're not familiar with Bobby Bentley, obviously the Burns legend. He just won the state championship again in Tennessee. His thing was high school relations. Dude knows everybody in the state. He can, one phone call, everybody bows down to Bobby Bentley because he's the man in the state, and he's a great dude, right? So that was his role in there. The two running back coaches that have not worked have not had any other plus ones. Martario Hardesty didn't add anything else to the staff besides coaching running backs. Doesn't feel like Marquell Blackwell added anything else to the staff besides coaching running backs. Oh, I left out one. Des Kitchens, who's now the offensive coordinator at Virginia. So obviously he was a whiteboard guy, right? He's a guy who could draw up some plays and try and figure out maybe creative angles in the running game. The last two running back coaches who Shane hired have not been plus ones on the staff. And so when you make a running backs coach, you're not just hiring somebody to coach the running backs because largely, athletically, they coach themselves. But what else are they bringing to the staff?
A lot of it, I think, is definitely the recruiting part, too. Like, in my experiences of covering the sport, a lot of your running backs coaches or tight ends, those are kind of the two position groups where I've always noticed ace recruiter. And sometimes some programs can kind of divvy up on a map of which coach gets which regional responsibility. I remember when I was covering Irmo in a lot of the schools in Lexington County for the Lexington County Chronicle, my time there as a sports editor, I saw Torian Gray at games a lot, right? Especially at Irmo. I saw him at a lot of Irmo high school football games. And I think a lot of that is by...
That's a room that you might, you might have some things on your hand that you're going to have to figure out how to work on some of those personalities.
You got to be like a Phil Jackson-like
you might have to,
master.
Yes, you might have to be working with that. But again, if I just laid out those two names, Buddy Pugh, Bobby Bentley, these next two coaches do not live up. They're not up to that standard or quality.
Because of what else they bring.
Because of what else they bring. Obviously, like I said, Buddy Pugh being a wise of his years, legendary, had already had his own thing that he created to build, and that might be another thing. Those two guys, Buddy Pugh and Bobby Bentley, they had already done it at a high level on their own thing. They were coming to contribute here. These two other guys that we've hired these past years, which have been relieved of their duties, I'm not sure what they had done prior to just being running back coaches here.
So that's something to look for.
So that's something when we're looking forward, the running back coach, what else are they bringing to the staff? Have they, because it could be a high school dude, but has he been mega successful in high school and he's bringing his experience? Has he been an ace recruiter in college? That's what I would be looking for when we talk about the running back position.
Have connections. And that's another thing, too, because so much of recruiting is connections to these high school schools. Kind of like what like Bobby Bentley brought, right? It's so good to have a guy on that staff where they can just call anybody in state.
When Bobby Bentley would call anybody in the state, you pick up first answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Bow down, Bobby Bentley.
The governor's calling, right?
The governor of South Carolina high school football is calling.
Mm-hmm.
You better answer. Well, earlier this week, or last week rather, we kind of wrote the Hallmark movie of Lane Kiffin. Well, there's been some developments this week outside of him just taking the LSU job that we thought would put a perfect bow on this villainous anti-Hallmark movie. And we found out because of one Jen Jensen. We're going to get to that coming up next here in the early game. It's Hallmark movie season. I know my mom's excited because Preston, Jen, she will sit in front of that TV and watch marathons of Hallmark movies.
Guilty. I do the same, and I can do that when they have Christmas in July. Bring them on, all happiness and joy.
There was like one time last year, she was FaceTiming me, and she goes, "Have you seen this movie?" And she gives the title. I'm like, "I've never heard it. Is it in theaters right now?" Assuming it's like when she just went to the theaters to watch. She goes, "No, it's on Hallmark right now, and I think you'd love it." And I was like, "Probably not." I appreciate you thinking of me, but probably not. She loves them.
You know, I'm going to go on a limb and say there's probably a storyline of people who have known each other for a while and then separated and then maybe starting to get back together, but then there was a misunderstanding right before they were going to commit. Just, yeah, so much like college football.
Yeah. Have you seen a Hallmark movie, though, that didn't have a happy ending?
No.
No. Almost every time, which is why I'm here to introduce the genre of the anti-Hallmark movie, where we're building it up for this happy ending only for one character who was supposed to change to completely not and completely revert back to every negative quality they ever had and completely ruin it for everybody else. And that's what we established the Lane Kiffin story was, right? Because we looked at it through a football lens, right? A personal and football lens. Because if you've watched that E60 piece on Lane Kiffin, you saw where it was kind of built up a little bit to show a character arc of Lane Kiffin, of a coach who always got in his own way at certain stops, who was always chasing the next best thing and always looking somewhere else. And then he finds this place, a sleepy town of Oxford, Mississippi, where he builds this program that's so desperate to be able to win to these unseen heights, right? Ole Miss hasn't won like this since color television was invented and available in everybody else's homes, right? And now he's got him to a point where they're going to make something called the college football playoff. And he already turned down the Auburn job because his daughter, who was going to Ole Miss at the time, talked him out of it, said, "I want you to stay."
She made a PowerPoint.
Made a PowerPoint. He was apparently moved to tears and said, "You know what? I'm not going to take the next best thing. I'm not going to chase the next bag. I'm not going to chase the next opportunity. I'm going to grow where I'm planted." And it wasn't 3 years later. We are presented with the exact same scenario. And this time, the character arc becomes a character circle. He's right back to where he was, baby. 2009 wasn't that long ago. But it gets worse because, Jen, you stumbled upon a story involving the dog.
Juice
Kiffin. And
Juice. Well, I don't know. There's been a lot of chatter about it. Like, is it Juice's, or is it just a dog? Is it Lane's dog? Did the university buy the dog to soften the image for Lane? Did he totally, like, is somebody else really taking care of the dog and he's just there for public appearances? Now, according to Juice, he does have a Twitter page, not terribly active, but he does have a page. And he's saying he's looking forward to joining his family down there. So now the new rumors are that he is going to go and be down in Baton Rouge. But again, a hairdresser had said that the university owned that dog.
And as I said in our group chat, if there's anybody in the town who knows the truth, it's the barber and the hairdresser.
Yep.
They know what's going on.
they are the masters of the tea in town.
They know what's happening. Also, Juice tweeted during the Iron Bowl about where was he going to be able to be on the sidelines. And
For the SEC championship game.
here's what I want to know. Who's controlling the Twitter account?
It's gotta be Lane Kiffin. Oh, it has to be.
And so Lane is having to switch between his two accounts, and he's switching, and now he's like, okay, I have to be Juice now. And also, if you remember, the Juice name played a little role in Gamecock lore because we also had a Juice here, and they had a Juice, and it was like all two Juices on campus. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that did happen.
I find it interesting that Juice also had a post on September 27th. New hat just dropped. Brian Kelly can't run the dang ball. Interesting.
The clues were there.
What did Juice know?
Time.
Mm-hmm.
What did Juice know?
What did Juice and Lane know?
It widely reported that Juice did not live with the Kiffins.
Yes.
That's out of all of this, the one thing that we have found out is that he did not live with the Kiffins.
This alleged character arc involved, getting the dog and all of this. And turns out the dog didn't live with him. Somebody else is handling the dog. The dog, just the greatest PR shield you could possibly have.
And that if anything else could speak to Lane Kiffin, is that, yep, got the family dog that somebody else is taking care of. Somebody else is
All public
raising.
appearance.
Yep.
It's all public appearance. There's no greater PR shield than a very cute puppy.
That's the reason I don't believe he did yoga either. I think he's fibbing.
A lot of PR work getting done there. So to put an unhappy bow on this anti-Hallmark movie, the first ever anti-Hallmark movie ever made, I'm leaving, I'm taking all my coaches, and I'm taking the dog too. And you guys have to live with it. We'll break down conference championship weekend coming up next.
I-77 southbound at I-26. Again, that's I-77 southbound at I-26. A report of an accident, and one other to make you aware of, is Spears Creek Church Road near Jacobs Mill Pond Road. Rain in the forecast today, potentially heavy through lunchtime. After that, the rain should taper back a little bit. Our high going to be a little bit cooler, 48. 51 with some scattered showers tomorrow, 51 with a few showers for your Sunday, but 77 and overcast currently. 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And it's not technically a football Friday. However, to quote Mark Adams talking to his seniors, Mark Adams, former Texas Tech basketball coach, at halftime of an NCAA tournament game where they were down 10 points, yells at his seniors, "I'm not ready to say goodbye to you yet." So this is me looking at Football Friday saying, "I'm not ready to say goodbye to you yet." I'm not done. There's more football to be had because it's conference championship weekend, which is one of my favorite weekends in the entire sport. And I think the advent of a 12-team playoff has kind of given it a little more juice for me.
Ooh.
A lot of people say it doesn't matter as much, but I think getting a bye matters. I know a lot of people are like, well, I'd rather have the home game than the bye. Jay Phillips and I would have this discussion all the time. I would say, if you play a home game, no matter who it's against, it's a non-0% chance you lose and your season's over. If you have a bye week, it's impossible to lose. And the percentage chance you have of losing in the first week or first round of the college football playoff is 0. I understand wanting the home gate and having that atmosphere, but I think I'd prefer the non-zero or the 0% chance to lose in that first week.
I get it.
That would be me, personally. I think, too, that conference championship games still matter. And it doesn't have to be because of playoff stuff. We get so caught up in who's making the playoff, who's getting snubbed, right? Oh, well, the committee, screwed over this team, and this team's got a better strength of record and all this type of stuff that we get caught up in. And admittedly, I get caught up in too. But I'm so tired of seeing certain teams have great seasons, win conference titles or do anything else like that, but because they didn't make the playoff, we can't say they had an incredible season. We can't be happy with a really good season from somebody. You're not going to get the promotion every year. You're not going to get to go on that awesome vacation every year. Sometimes life just happens. And this is one of those instances like for Vanderbilt. Life happens. It was a bad year to be 10-2 in the SEC because a lot of teams went 10-2 or better. We can't just be happy with Vanderbilt winning that. And for Alabama and Georgia in the SEC championship game tomorrow, right? I don't consider it a failure if Alabama wins that game and then gets upset in the first round of the playoff. Does losing in the first round of the playoff suck? Yeah, but you won an SEC title. That is something to be proud of. Like, that is such a significant accomplishment still. I will never diminish what a conference title means to anybody.
Yeah. I'm in 100% agreement with you because I dislike the idea of it's a zero-sum game that you championship or nothing. I don't agree with that. Going back to my high school background, everybody understands, speaking of Football Friday, winning the state championship is awesome. Going to the state championship is awesome. But the universal agreement among high school coaches is that if you're practicing on Thanksgiving, you have had a tremendous season, and you can be proud whatever happens after that. Mm-hmm. And that's just universally accepted. Like, hey, man, we made it to Thanksgiving. This was an awesome season. Anything else past this, if we win 2 more games, that's great. And it's really cool, and you get the ring, and people remember, but people remember practicing on Thanksgiving just as much as they remember state championships. I promise you that. And so I don't want to lose that in college because winning a conference championship, you still accomplished a great goal. Getting to the point where you won 10 wins for the first time in the school's history, that's still an amazing accomplishment, and we can't lose sight of that.
No, absolutely not. And that's one thing during conference championship weekend that for some teams, I know it still really matters. Like for the Big Ten championship game, for instance, Ohio State and Indiana. Ohio State can probably lose that game, and yeah, they'll be chapped, but they're still national championship aspirations. Indiana has a chance to do something they've never done before, win a conference title. I firmly believe that Kurt Signetti, they could win that game tomorrow, and even if they lose before the semifinal of the college football playoff, it's still an incredible year. Or if they lose in the semifinal, right? They'll always have a Big Ten championship, an undefeated regular season, and a Big Ten championship, right? Even if you don't play in the last game of the season, that rules because you've been deprived of that in your entire existence. That type of stuff is really cool. And to me, that type of stuff really matters. And if Virginia wins in the ACC title game tomorrow, it's an incredible story that, yes, they get to be in the playoff. But when I tell the story about the 2025 Virginia Cavaliers, you know what I'm not saying? First ever playoff appearance. I'm saying you won the ACC championship, right? As Tony Elliott as the head coach with all he's had to put up with in terms of that team, in terms of the tragedy they had when he first got that job, and having to really rise from the ashes since 2023, and you've seen that slow build for it to result in actual hardware, because they don't give you a trophy for losing in the first round of the college football playoff. You don't get a trophy for making the college football playoff. You do get one for winning your conference title game. And as much as the perception is that these games have become diminished, I still personally find an incredible amount of value in having them played.
I agree with that. And when you bring it up the idea of what Virginia had to go through to get to this point, it's really cool to see. Really cool to see them stick with Tony as a program, see him get to that point, and those players and that staff will remember this forever, especially in a world where it's so transient. You might be here, you might be there. They can all point back to that year where we won the conference championship. That's all going to be something that they all remember together. Jen, can we get clip number 3 here? This is Kirby Smart talking about why championships are important. This is Kirby,
this is the good
national
stuff.
champion. This is a dude who has won it at the highest level, and he's still saying how it's important.
Well, every game's a playoff game, because for us, every game to this point would have probably taken, us out of the SEC championship game or out of the playoffs. So, your back's against the wall every week in this conference. It's not new to either team. So it's the next one, and you can't make it bigger than it is. It's a big moment. It's a chance for an SEC championship, and around our place, they put numbers up in the banners in the hallways for when you win SEC championships, and that's significant to me. These kids, these players, they want an opportunity to win this conference. They mostly grew up around this conference, and they know how hard it is to achieve an SEC championship. So we want to be at our best, and we got a elite opponent to go against to do it.
I love that idea. Like the memories that you have of winning those conference championship games, which is why I really appreciate Kirby Smart taking it seriously. In an age in which some coaches talk about, well, I don't think I want my team to play in a conference championship game. Weak.
Loser.
Soft. Scared of competition, because there is definitely a whole lot of scared of competition happening in college football right now, because I don't want to risk losing a game because I want to be 10-2 and be in the college football playoff discussion. Or Steve Sarkisian complaining about playing the Ohio State game, saying, well, if we would have scheduled, Sam Houston State or whatever instead, which they also did later in the season, then maybe we'd be 10-2 and be in the college football playoff. No, you play the game to win them. You don't play them to get credit for it. You play them to win them, because guess what they would have done if they showed up in the first half of that game and actually ended up winning it? You'd be a shoo-in.
All right.
Your loss to 4-8 Florida wouldn't matter. You would be a shoo-in for the college football playoff. You were sitting watching these games with your feet up, and you are enjoying every little bit of what's happening because you're already in. Or, you know what? Who knows? Maybe that win propels you into something better, and you're a little more ahead of schedule, and you're able to play in the conference championship game. I hate that loser mentality of just running away from competition. If you're Kirby Smart lives for this. He takes these things seriously. Any game that you play is a playoff game to you, because winning matters, and winning big games is what this is all about.
And they've earned them. They've earned the right. They've earned the opportunity to play in this game and get some hardware, and that's really cool.
Yeah,
because you can't guarantee what's going to happen at the end, and if you get to the national championship, awesome, that's really cool. But especially with the CFP being so new, it's going to be like CFP quarterfinalists. All right. That's cool, I guess. But SEC champion, that still has a ring to it.
That has an incredible ring to it, right? Like, that type of stuff still matters, and it's going to matter to those fan bases too, or at least it should.
I'll tell you what, I'll take one.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to be covering a South Carolina game in that beautiful dome on the first Saturday in December. Yeah, sign me up. And I think any fan would also want to be signed up for that. Because you got so close one year. You had to play Cam Newton again, which is the unfortunate part, right? Congratulations, you won the SEC East for the first time. Your prize is seeing Cam Newton again. But wasn't it fun to see South Carolina play in a conference championship game? I obviously was not living here at the time. I was in high school. But I remember watching that SEC title game, really pulling for South Carolina to beat Auburn. Because I was like, it's so cool that somebody new was in the SEC title game. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to see that happen. I was with all of you watching that game, not knowing what the future had ahead, really wanting South Carolina to win that football game. because of that. I thought it was so cool. I was like, this would mean so much for a program like that, right? To win a conference title. And now knowing that South Carolina hasn't won a conference title since, 1969? When they won the ACC, it's the only banner, or I guess, thing that you see hung up at Williams-Brice Stadium. But it still matters to a lot of fan bases. And speaking of character circles, not character arcs, I just got done railing about how much the college football playoff shouldn't matter in terms of the pride of winning a conference title game. I am going to make the circle back around to say there is a mode of chaos here that I'd like to see reached because of the college football playoff. I have an ultimate chaos scenario. And it starts with this. Alabama loses and gets that magical third loss that makes people have to think about it. Because then the committee has to decide, do they want to punish a conference champion loser? They did not punish a conference champion loser last year after saying they wouldn't. I will say they did say that they weren't going to do that. They were true to their word by letting SMU in, right? Is that the same thing this year? It's a different committee. That could be interesting. Another one, 7 o'clock tonight in the Sun Belt Championship. James Madison getting upset by Troy. Not very likely. James Madison is a 23.5-point favorite in that game. But we're kind of operating under the assumption that if Duke beats Virginia, the ACC is iced out of the college football playoff. But that's the assumption because it does go to the 5 highest ranked conference champions. Finding the 5 highest ranked conference champions is a lot easier if Duke somehow beats Virginia and then even James Madison beats Troy, and whoever wins, like the American championship winner is going to get in, right? Either as the last team or the second to last conference champion to get in because they're both ranked ahead of James Madison. So the winner of the American's getting in. So that one doesn't matter as much. That game also played tonight. But if Troy was to win, making it James Madison 11-2, which will kick them out of the top 25, and Duke wins, you have to have another conference champion because then your conference champions will come from the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, the American. And do you put in a 2-loss Sun Belt champion over a 5-loss ACC champion? You got to pick one somewhere. There's got to be a 5th conference champion to get in.
I think if it was an actual playoff, you would. But I go back to my idea of it being an invitational. The ACC bringing in the amount of money that they can get, they're going to try and find a way to get the ACC in.
Even if it's 8-5 Duke.
Even if it's, I do. I think because you still want to be like, hey, these ACC games matter for this CFP experiment that we're having here. So I think they still would try and do that, but ultimately they just don't want to have that happen.
Yeah. Oh, if you're the committee, you're really hoping Virginia wins. I'm telling you, all those athletic directors in that room when they're watching games and they're having all that pizza, probably from a very fine establishment, delivered to them, or whatever food it is that they're having that some of us might have to take out loans to acquire on a Saturday night, are going to be eating that, watching that ACC title game, and deep down inside they're like, Virginia, please win this game. Please. We don't want to have to kick the ACC.
We don't want to make a
ice
decision.
them out of this. No.
We don't want to have to make a decision.
You do not want to have to make decisions, which is why they're also thinking we really want Alabama to beat Georgia because Georgia's going to be in regardless because they lose. That's loss number 2. But Alabama losing to Georgia might negate the win they had against Georgia, might cancel it out because you went 1-1 against them. This is your second time seeing them this season. I'm not saying that Alabama's booted with a loss, but the committee has to make a decision on 10-3 Alabama, who then wouldn't be playing their best ball because then they would have lost, 2 of their last 4? Then you got to take that into consideration, how you're playing at the end of the season, especially if Georgia beats them by any type of sizable margin.
Which they said is an important thing that they consider.
Which is an important thing to consider. So if you are looking for chaos, which I kind of am, that is kind of what you'll be looking for tonight and tomorrow. But coming up next, it wasn't necessarily chaotic, but it was really tight. Dawn Staley and her South Carolina Gamecocks went to Louisville, and they had to sweat it out. We'll tell you what happened and give our thoughts coming up next on the morning meeting.
Preston here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been family-owned and serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standards of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, they're proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has got you covered. Huge selection of new and pre-owned mowers, powerful tractors, and all the gear you need. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
I-77 southbound at I-26 may still encounter a little bit of a slowdown due to an earlier accident. And Spears Creek Church Road near Jacobs Mill Pond Road, also a report of a slowdown. We are looking for a high today of about 48 and a lot of rain today, especially through lunchtime. Then it should be tapering off just a little bit, but still scattered rain possible throughout today into tomorrow, and a few showers on Sunday. Tomorrow's high 51. Sunday also 51 is what we're looking at. 47 with some clouds currently on the early game.
SEC ACC Challenge last night. South Carolina was given a test at Louisville, and they survived 79-77. That's what we're going to break down for this morning's morning meeting.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day. Let's go.
Yeah, it will.
Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
And it's going to be an awesome day because we're talking about a South Carolina win as opposed to a loss. And, buddy, it got close last night. Louisville gave South Carolina a game that I was not expecting them to give. Now, I know Louisville's a good team. However, I do find them to be in different weight classes. Because South Carolina, under Don Staley in the last decade, I expect to be a top 5 team in the country. Louisville will sometimes have top 10 teams. Sometimes, but more likely, I find them to be in that 15 to 20 range. Really good program, a really good environment last night at the KFC Yum Center. Don't forget the exclamation point.
Gotta make sure.
Yeah, KFC Yum. But there were a couple things last night that I think this team has that impressed me and also gives me a little bit of pause.
Okay.
And I think the biggest thing that is giving me pause, and I think it's probably the thing that Don Staley is probably trying to figure out the most, is making it work on the defensive end. Because there were some defensive lapses last night, right? Louisville scores over a 1.09 points per possession. And Dawn in her tenure have oftentimes held teams below 1 and do so with pretty much regularity, right? And another staple of Dawn's teams has been the ability to bring in whole other units off the bench and be able to platoon, right? And that has helped them a lot. That depth is one of the reasons why they went undefeated a couple years ago and won a national title. But here's the breakdown of the bench minutes last night. Isla McDowell, 9 minutes. Maddie McDaniel, 5 minutes. Adele Tack, 3 minutes. You're not getting a ton of help off the bench. In the minutes for your starters last night, Tania Latson played 38 of the 40. Raven Johnson played 38 of the 40. Tessa Johnson played 38 of the 40. Joyce Edwards played 35. Medina Coate had 33. They're having to play a lot of minutes.
My question is, are they playing that many minutes because they're not able to pull away? Does she feel like she has to keep them in the game because they haven't been able to expand any leads that they've had?
I think that's it. And here's the thing, too. This offensively, I thought they played really well. And that's even aside from missing some opportunities at the rim. Now, in the loss to Texas, they shot 50% at the rim. That's not acceptable. You get a shot at the rim, that should be a point per shot more than a point per shot every time, right? You're about at a point per shot in your last 2 games on shots at the rim because they were 14 for 27 at the rim last night. You've got to be able to convert chances late, especially late in games. It hurts you against Texas. I think ultimately that's the thing that cost you because it's not like they're running bad offense and taking bad shots. I think their shot quality is really good. And last night they scored 79 points. If you want to do the points per possession thing, you're at 1.12, which is really good. It could have been higher. And that's the thing. You are leaving points on the table. And if you're going to take a step back defensively, because I don't think this team defensively is as sound as they were the last couple of years, and that can change, right? That can very well change. But you can't leave you missed 13 shots at the rim last night. That's 26 points. It's 26 points you left at the rim last night. And I think one of the reasons why they only shot 16 threes, which is more than they've usually been shooting, they're very low in three-point rate because they do such a good job of getting shots at the basket. Right? And my thing is, if you're getting a lot of shots at the basket or if you're getting open three-point looks, you're running good, healthy offense. And they were doing that a lot last night. But there's still just a couple of things, and they're very small details that I think can be fixed. Like there's a play last night, Louisville's in transition, going on offense. Tessa Johnson's about three-point line. When you're the closest one to the ball, even if it's not the person you're supposed to be guarding in a man-to-man defense, you got to stop the ball. Priority 1 is stopping the ball and make them go into a half-court offense. Well, she ends up going off to the corner. Her back is to the ball, and a Louisville player looks around and is like, oh, okay, I'm open, shoots a 3, nails it. Dawn wasn't happy about that. And then offense, there's a couple things. I think this is more of a chemistry thing. Like Tania Latson and Raven Johnson have played together a lot, right? No need to work in chemistry there. But with a transfer star player, sometimes there are things in the offense that might take some accustomed to, right? Last night, Tessa Johnson makes a cut over to the wing, catches the ball, and Tania Latson standing right behind her. This is in the second half. And I'm watching my TV going like, move, space out, space out. And one person could guard both of them, right? And that's kind of violates spacing rules. There are a couple of small detail things like that that I think can get worked out in time, but they were lucky enough to not lose that game last night, especially considering the open three-point look Louisville got in their last possession. It was wide open.
But that's the game, because somebody would say, you know, if Rory Harmon doesn't get that, if she misses that look that she got, then they won that game, right? So you can, you can make the argument. My question or concern is, and when I've watched them, I'm still trying to figure out, not because I've repeated this phrase a lot in football, what is their offensive identity?
I think it's a lot of driving to the basket or dumping it into Medina Okote, who has been a much better scorer than I thought she would be. To her credit,
that is
she is a better scorer. Yeah, she was 9 of 12 at the rim last night. All those struggles at the rim that I was talking about are non-applicable to Medina because she made 9 of those 12. And she can get the ball down there whenever she wants. That's why she was able to score 23 points last night and grab 13 rebounds.
Again, that makes Dawn smile, too.
That does, yes. Oh, she's like, I need my dominant big. And she's got that. I will say, I didn't know if Okote would be like the dominant type big to get you 23 and 13 against a ranked opponent on the road. Has been a pleasant surprise that she is that far ahead to be able to do that. You just need other players to be able to make a lot of those shots at the rim, too. Tessa showing her three-point muscle a little bit last night, also very encouraging. She was 4 of 7. And there were a couple of shots that she made quick in the offense that I think are basically zone defense killers, because if I'm a team playing against Dawn, I might just go zone until you shoot me out of it, right? Tessa Johnson needs to be able to have three-point shooting percentages in games like that to discourage teams from playing zone. That's what Clemson did. When Clemson came in here a couple of weeks ago, they basically were packing the paint in as tight as possible and say, if you're going to beat us, we're going to make you shoot horse shots. And ultimately, through the course of that game, South Carolina shot them out of it. And you're going to have to be able to do that, because you're going to play teams in the SEC that are going to have better size than a team like Clemson will, that are going to try to just wall up the paint and make you shoot jumpers instead of just dumping the ball into your center and having Medina go to work. They're going to try to scheme that around you.
So, again, nothing better for a coach than a close win.
Yep.
That's the best thing you can have as a coach, is a good close win, because now we can take you to the film and we can show you all the things that you messed up, but we still got a dub with it.
Still got a dub. And here's the thing, too. Tonight didn't have her best shooting performance and didn't have her best scoring performance. She was averaging 17 going into the game, only had 9 last night. And overall, I mean, she was 2 of 5 from 2, not ideal, 1 of 4 from 3, but she made the play of the game, getting to the basket and throwing like a little hook. If she shot it, it'd be a hook shot. But it was like a little hook pass behind her to Medina. Medina caught it and scored. What I like about Tania Latson is that still, without scoring a ton, 5 assists, 1 turnover. The thing I love about Raven Johnson, who never really needs to score to be effective, 8 assists, 1 turnover. Tessa, 3 assists, 1 turnover. When your guards are doing that and still facilitating the offense, even if a couple of them aren't shooting the ball particularly well, that's a good sign for your offense moving forward. So, again, South Carolina 79, Louisville 77. We'll get back into Gamecock recruiting and all of that with some sound from Shane Beamer coming up next.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, Inc.com.
Spears Creek Church Road near Jacobs Mill Pond Road, still working that earlier slowdown. Garner's Ferry Road near Lower Richland Boulevard, and in downtown Columbia, Park Street near Laurel, you'll also encounter a bit of a slowdown. Rain in the forecast pretty much all day today. Be a little heavier through lunchtime, then tapering off a little bit. Chances for rain tomorrow and Sunday. They lessen each day of the weekend. Today's high 48, 51 for Saturday and Sunday. Overcast and 47 right now.
It's my favorite juxtaposition in modern college football because clearly high school recruiting still matters. When it comes to things like blue chip ratio, you still have to have more 4 or 5 stars on the roster than you have other star rated players on the roster. That still has to be above 50% if you even want to have a talent level to be able to win a national championship. So that still matters. But the transfer portal, as we've kind of went over yesterday, is, as we're finding out, maybe more supplemental than something that you have to absolutely rely on a year-to-year basis. Living and dying in the portal can be a dangerous game, and that can make your program ripe for inconsistency. We mentioned a lot of the teams that lead the country or led the country going into this year in portal players, and very few of them had successful seasons. Let's take Purdue as the extreme example because they're 59, I think it was, transfer players that came in, and which led all the Power Four, resulted in a 2-10 season. Obviously not ideal. So high school recruiting still matters, but once you're done with your recruiting class, where do you need to supplement the roster? Well, Shane Beamer was asked that. This will be on yesterday's list, Jen. This is going to be cut 11 because Shane did talk about what the portal needs are going to be now that we kind of have this year's high school recruiting class finalized.
Lines of scrimmage. If you look, and I'm just basing that, Jack, off of the target numbers that we want to have going into every season from a scholarship standpoint, we are under those numbers at the defensive tackle position and the offensive line position. So right away, just from a need standpoint, offensive line, defensive tackle, offensive line, defensive tackle, offensive line, defensive tackle. But we need to get our depth increased there, and we need to certainly not just bring in depth pieces. We need to bring in impact guys that can compete with a already good room, in my opinion. You know, you look at that defensive tackle position with Gabe coming back and Troy Pikes and some of the plays he made Saturday against Clemson, and Devontae Miles and young guys coming in and young guys already here. We've got some good young players, but if you're just looking at the personnel number of scholarship guys that we want to have at each position, we're under there. And as we sit here today, we have, 3 scholarship running backs in our program, and that's literally impossible to go into a season with 3 scholarship running backs with the wear and tear that you have at that position. So we've got to be able to. We didn't sign a high school running back. I don't know if that's a mystery guy, but don't plan on signing a high school running back. And we need to certainly go attack the portal to be able to increase the depth at those positions. But again, I wouldn't close the door on any position because I feel like there's areas where we can always get better and increase the competition at.
There are a couple things there that I wanted to address. One, something he said, and one, something he didn't say.
Okay.
Something he said. Offensive line, defensive line. Now, they've had success bringing in defensive linemen from the transfer portal. Defensive players in general, I feel like, have been their highest success rate when it comes to portaling. And you talk about someone like Troy Pikes, who did come in. I expect Troy Pikes, who was awesome against Clemson,
Great game on Saturday,
to have an elevated role next season. Offensive line is where that hit percentage was at 0 this year, and that made a massive difference that really dictated what happened in your season. You're going into the same season with the same off season with the same challenge that you had last season, and the result has to be infinitely better. That's when where I'm sitting, I'm thinking, man, you've really got to connect on this, or it can be a repeat of last.
And that's why I say you need to take a little bit of time to reflect on why this went wrong. Was it the evaluation process? What did you miss during there that led to this result? Because those results weren't good. And you can't take the same process into the next recruiting cycle saying, hey, this is what we do because what you did didn't work.
The process has to change.
So the process has to change based on the way they evaluated last year. So that is something that needs to happen. But again, this goes back to development because is it a chicken or the egg type of deal? Was the evaluation process messed up? I would argue probably yes, but also the coach that was in place did not do them any favors as far as developing is concerned.
Now, there's one thing he didn't say that I was intrigued with, and I don't know if this was by design or if he just forgot. Quarterback. Because it tells me he either likes the quarterback that they have coming in, Landon Duckworth, to start, or he thinks Lenoris might be coming back.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, he did not mention that. You're
Because
right.
if you don't get a portal quarterback, then either Lenoris is coming back and he's starting, or you're going to have a quarterback competition, essentially what I would assume between Landon Duckworth and Cutter Woods to be the starter for next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fact. And then when you go even further, he did also mention the idea that they did not sign a running back. So they're going to have to go back into the portal. The running back position has been a struggle for Shane Beamer during the Shane Beamer era. They tried to experiment with DeCarrion Joyner. That didn't necessarily work. Mario Anderson came from Newberry.
And had a good season.
I don't think that was on anybody's bingo card. So that was a logo 3 that actually ended up hitting. That has been a problem spot all this time, and maybe you can connect it to because of all the positions on this team. There have been 2 running back coaches, and both of them have been relieved of duties. He needs to make sure that he hammers home and makes that higher so that you can get everything in order underneath that.
And then if you're portal shopping for a running back, you've had mixed results the last 2 years. I think you saw some flashes with Faison that were good, but I don't think you saw the consistency needed to be able to have a healthy offense.
Not enough. And I think,
right?
and I would say, yeah, there were some flashes in the running game, a few, but in the rest of the game, as far as blocking, not enough.
Yeah, not enough. And the year prior, though, you got Rocket Sanders. That was not just a home run. That's what you would call a Judgian blast, right? Like an Aaron Judge shot that leaves the stadium.
But everybody knew that, though.
And you knew that going in because he was a 1,000-plus yard rusher whenever he was fully healthy at Arkansas. In this league, right? You had a lot of confidence that one was going to work. People coming into the season looked at Rocket Sanders as one of the biggest additions in the portal of anybody in SEC play. So that tells me that you're now kind of at a crossroads. What are you looking for a running back? If you like Jawarn Howell a lot, who had a good last couple of games to end the season, or at least a really good game against A&M, is that a guy you plan on just getting more carries and you need a supplementary piece, or do you go after a workhorse back in the portal?
Best available? And you need to go after somebody to create competition. Mm-hmm. And again, this also goes back to what does the running back coach want? What is he? Once
you get them in the room.
Yeah.
So that's why this running back coach hire also very interesting. What may be the most interesting development we've had on this show in a while is our buddy James. James, we're going to have you hold on because we have to hit a break. But James called in last week in Clemson week and promised his 4-year-old son that South Carolina was going to beat Clemson. We all know what happened on Saturday. And now James has called in to give us the aftermath. We'll hear from James coming up next on the early game. So last week, in our lead up to the Carolina-Clemson football game, I asked a question at the very beginning of the week as to why you hate Clemson, or vice versa. If you're Clemson, why do you hate South Carolina? Just trying to really expose the soul of this great rivalry. And James called in and talked about an interaction his son had with a friend, both 4 years old, mentioning how, his friend is a Clemson fan and told him that, Tigers always beat Gamecocks. Well, James's son comes home and says, Dad, do Tigers always beat Gamecocks? And James promised his son a win on Saturday. Long story short, it didn't happen. So James joins us right now. James, one, thank you for calling back into the early game to give us an update on this situation. Two, how was Saturday for you?
I think we all learned a valuable life lesson. Probably don't make promises to 4-year-olds that you definitely can't keep. And honestly, I probably just dragged my feet on calling in this week. I was going to make up an excuse. I've been busy with work, and, here we are Friday, and had to bite the bullet. But I'll tell you what, there's good news and bad news from Saturday, because we were both there, and we're sitting there first half, and I had a head-in-hand moment because he looks up. We sit end zone opposite the student section. He looks up behind us and goes, Dad, Gamecocks have 0.
Yep.
And I just looked down like, well, yeah, we do. Now, granted, we scored right after that, and then got excited that we had 7. Here's the good news. He fell asleep the entire second half.
Ooh.
Yes.
Good call.
He had a long morning, and he didn't see a lick of the second half. So me and my brothers were walking out with our heads down.
Oh, so I assume he probably, that's maybe the first question asked once he got back to the car or he woke up was, what was the score? Who won?
Yeah, we were walking back through the fairgrounds, and I kind of just back and forth. He's 4, so maybe he doesn't understand the entirety, which helps me. But he's like, Gamecocks lose? I'm like, yeah, Gamecocks lose. He's like, we not always lose. I'm like, yeah, how about next year we go back? And he's like, yeah. So it was all positive at the end of the day. And honestly, having a 4-year-old checks your priorities. You can't stay sulking for too long. So it was overall a great day, even though the result was not great.
Even in the bad news, I heard good news. That means little James knows his numbers at 4. So
That's true.
Congratulations. Good job.
So
Yeah, kid learns quick. He knows his Gamecock football. So taught him something right. And you know what? Nobody can ever call him a bandwagon.
That's right.
We're there in the playoff, and a couple years from now, maybe next year, can't call that kid a bandwagon.
Nope, not at all. And I think, James, you might have taught the most important Gamecock fan life lesson at a young age, and that is there's always next year.
Yeah.
Always.
Always. Thanks, guys.
Oh, thanks for calling in, James.
What a great update.
Oh, that was fantastic. Yeah, it was
And again, how
a
fun
life lesson.
for the 4-year-old to just say, well, okay. Well, kind of the whole next year thing. Like he didn't brood about it. So luckily James is off the hook because that could have been a really hard. But you said
You promised.
Could've been a tough one.
you broke your promise. So yeah, it could have gotten ugly. So what a cool little guy.
Also, falling asleep middle of 80,000 people.
That's amazing.
4-year-old activities.
Yes.
Very much so 4-year-old activities. I'm ashamed to say I also still kind of have that skill. I probably could fall asleep amongst 80,000 other people in a stadium.
I might be able to today.
Yeah. I may or may not have slept through a tornado that wasn't too far away from a house I was living in.
Oh, wow.
Point in 2020, where I was still, at the time, I'm what, 25 years old? So, I mean, the skill can carry over, right? It can carry over. Very impressive skill to have.
That is impressive. That'll serve him well.
Neil texts in the Firehouse Subs text line, says, sounds like his son is being raised like a true Gamecock fan to, quote, wait for next year. Start him young. Start him young.
Absolutely. That way they just are able to roll with it. It maybe the ups and downs are a little more immediate, a little bit in the middle.
Now, this is where the game can get really dangerous, too. James can tell his son next year, when we get close to time for the game to happen, say, hey, well, the last 2 times you've played at Clemson, you've won. That's a good trend. So that's either setting up for him feeling better about the game, or if they do lose, then that makes you have to wait for next year again.
I mean, if
You can always point that out to him.
yeah, I mean, if he's 4, he's 2-2.
Lifetime.
Oh,
So-
that's a good point.
You know, he's like, yeah, we're due.
I mean, they were kids born, what, 7, 8 years before him that could not say that. That could not say lifetime. That was their record.
So he's straight. He's in a good spot.
Yeah. He's good.
Maybe one of the best spots ever, except for that crew that was born during the 5 Street.
Yeah, if you're born from what 2010 to or 2009 to 2013.
Yeah, if he was born in that era, you have a different life than
Yeah,
everybody
your first
else.
5 years of your existence. But then the negative side is you don't remember those first 5 years.
Right,
But you can
because
always say that. Yeah.
you had 0 to 5 was good, but 5 through 12,
No.
the years you actually remember.
You'd rather be good in your formative years. It's a lesson I've learned in my sports fandom. Hour number 3 coming up next.
Preston here for the men's clinic. Listen, man, are you tired? I am. That might be because it's Friday, or it might be because you have low testosterone. But you need to go check out Dr. Dan Boltnight at the men's clinic. It's not just some faceless online place where you don't know who's talking to you. Dr. Dan Boltnight is a local, respected physician, and he'll get to the bottom of the reason why you may be feeling some fatigue. At the men's clinic, you'll find a non-threatening, comfortable environment that's open to hearing your concerns. But here's the best part. Your initial consultation with Dr. Boltnight is absolutely free. You can get your T levels checked, and you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So don't wait. Call them at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS. Or you can reach them online at mensclinicsc.com.
We have a report of an accident, Farrow Road at Beckman Drive, easy for me to say. Also, a slowdown Garner's Ferry Road near Lower Richland Boulevard as they get that accident cleared. Spears Creek Church Road near Jacobs Pond, Mill Pond Road. Also, a slowdown. They're trying to get that all cleared up this morning. And Park Street near Laurel, an accident as well. And yeah, the forecast, it's a rainy one. And the rain today will be potentially heavier until about lunchtime, and then thinning out a little bit, but still rain in the forecast throughout the day. 48 for the high. Some scattered showers tomorrow. Lesser chances for showers on Sunday, but still a possibility. It's 47 right now.
The early game, third and long hour, starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. Our engineer Randy's in the house, and so is Thomas in the video production studio, making sure this operation runs nice and smoothly. And it's, well, I guess technically the day after signing day, or 2 days after signing day. And I think day 2 of signing day, which was yesterday, was the best one for the South Carolina Gamecocks. He felt good about being a top 20 class across the board, whether it be 24/7, Rivals, On3, whatever site you're looking at. And being top 20 is good, but when Landon Duckworth officially signs that NLI, you don't have to worry about him flipping to go play at LSU. When Julian Walker flips from Michigan to stay closer to home, play for you at South Carolina, you feel a whole lot better, especially when you see that ranking rise to top 15, which is a spot, I think if you're South Carolina, is more than acceptable for any type of recruiting cycle.
Yeah, you want to make sure you get those two, because those are two stronghold pieces of a recruiting class. You get a quarterback, you get a defensive end, which, interestingly enough, he's not being reported as an edge. And I'm not sure what's going on here.
I don't understand how that distinction ends up getting made. I'm sure somebody a lot smarter than me can point to something that says, okay, we classify you as an edge rusher or a defensive end, because if I'm not mistaken, it's not like the job description for edge rusher and defensive end are too terribly different.
I think there's some really, really thin minutia that you could get into, but not worth the distinction. Point being, those are two spots that you want to lock up in a recruiting class that are highly impactful moving forward.
And you got those guys on campus. And I find that to be really big, especially like with Landon Duckworth, because clearly the staff loves him. He's a 2-time commitment. And the last commitment, I think, was going back to July, according to 24/7, was according to my memory, and 24/7, been recruited or committed since July. Coaching staff has identified a lot of things with him, and from what I've seen, I have not watched full games of, his high school games in Jackson, Alabama. Don't have a ton of access to those, but I've got access to what has been shown online. I love his skill set. I think there's a lot of tools there that can be really useful. I'm really intrigued to see what happens at the quarterback position now, because we played a clip from Shane Beamer earlier about talking about portal needs, and he mentioned things like offense, defensive line, your trenches. He talked about only having, 3 scholarship running backs coming back to the team next year. He didn't mention quarterback. So looking at that position, you will have more than likely Cutter Woods returning. I don't know what Aaron Nolan's going to do. And then you have Landon Duckworth. If you don't get a portal quarterback, you will be doing one of two things. Having a first-year starter at the position. If it's Cutter Woods, it is either a redshirt freshman or sophomore. I don't know if they redshirted him or not. I think they did. So a redshirt freshman or a true freshman starting at quarterback. Or Lenora Sellers is coming back. One of those two things, if you don't go portal shopping for a quarterback, can happen. And I think Landon Duckworth signing that NLI yesterday made this whole situation a little more interesting to look at going into next year.
Also, as Gamecocks, you have to feel a little bit better to know that Lane was sniffing around your quarterback.
Maybe the best endorsement of him possible.
Yeah, that makes me feel like, okay, somebody else wants him. Somebody else that's notably known to recognize and understand quarterback talent. So if Lane was going after him, that means, to me, that provides him a sense of legitimacy. And that's good news. Bad that he almost got him, or that there was conversations, but good that he was in the conversation.
And that's, honestly, I haven't really thought about that until right now. Because you try to make your own evaluation on these players based off measurables, seeing what they do well on the film you're able to get your filthy mitts on whenever you can access it. But there is something to be said about who else wants this player. And you look at Lane Kiffin's track record of the quarterbacks that he's recruited and has developed. Now it's South Carolina's job to develop them, but he did recruit or bring Jackson Dart from Southern Cal. He did have the desire to bring in Austin Simmons, who then got hurt, and then he brought in Trinidad Chambliss from Ferris State. He identified traits in those guys, and I still firmly believe if Austin Simmons started, they'd be really good. Maybe not what they are right now, but if he started anywhere else in the SEC, I think he is a solid, reliable SEC starter. And then you look back even, before that, he had some really good quarterbacks at Florida Atlantic. He was able to help identify some talents that he was able to get at Alabama. And even early in Ole Miss, too, I even forgot this, Matt Corral, who identified traits to become a really good SEC quarterback and then got drafted to play in the NFL. That should tell you a lot about what somebody who sees a lot of the little things of what quarterbacks can and can't do. If he wanted Landon Duckworth to come to LSU, I think that says a lot about Landon Duckworth's, not just his measurables, but how good he can project to be at this level.
Yeah, and so you're glad that you got him, right? You didn't. Maybe you was a little bit nervous and came a little bit closer than you thought it was going to be, but you're glad that the deal is finally made and is done, and you can move forward from there. So that's a huge piece of that recruiting profile, and it's a huge win because we laid out all the reasons why somebody would be looking further. 4-8 season, no offensive coordinator. Things are in uncertainty, no quarterback coach. There was a lot of reasons why a high-profile recruit might look to go somewhere else, but kudos to them as a staff for locking that down and bringing that one home.
And I'm glad you mentioned that part because that brings me to this. What does it say about Shane Beamer as a recruiter, or maybe where the program is as a whole? I mean, these two things can go hand in hand, where you can have a season as disappointing as this one was. You can go 4-8, but still be able to attract a top 15 recruiting class because, as we pointed out in the first hour of the show, there are only 3 teams in the top 15 in Rivals and On 3 who have the top 15 recruiting classes this year that were under 500 and missed bowl games this year. That was Florida, Florida State, and South Carolina. And you look at Florida and Florida State, those are programs that have won national championships. Those are programs that have endless resources at their disposal.
And they're bigger brands. Let's just call it what it is.
Big traditional brands, right? They are some of the biggest brands in college football, and they have been since the early 90s, right? If you want to talk about Florida and Florida State at the same time.
Because, for instance, you look at LSU, obviously Lane is there now. Brian Kelly was there. When Brian Kelly left, nothing happened.
Nothing changed with the recruiting class. Nothing changed. That also tells you a lot about Brian Kelly. I'm not going to lie. I think that probably tells you a lot.
Two perfect illustrations. The head coach leaves. Nothing happens to the recruiting class, which means he was recruiting to a brand, and also they weren't committing to Brian Kelly. I think you could say the opposite here. South Carolina, listen, man, I am a Gamecock. I love the Gamecocks, but come on, man. We got to look in the mirror sometimes. We're not those brands, and that's okay. But those players are committing to what Shane is building as a culture, and they're believing him, and that does say something for him.
I think that speaks
says a lot
pretty loudly, right? And that's why I feel like he feels good about what they can do next year. Now, obviously, you have to be able to put everything together. You got to do some things in this offseason you weren't able to do last offseason, which was identify contributors in the line of scrimmage that can play right away and be able to gel with the other players that they're coming in to join and avoid a lot of the mishaps you've had this year. And that's also develop, right? If you're able to maybe rectify some of the developmental issues you've had with some of the big name players you've gotten at certain positions, especially on the offensive line, then you can make a jump. Then you can get back on track. That's a way to get back on track, right? Is portal evaluation and development of the high school players you're able to bring in, because they're clearly, in terms of how these classes have been evaluated, you've had classes good enough to be really good in the SEC. Maybe not championship level good because you are going up against your Georgias, Alabamas, LSUs, Texas, Oklahoma. I get that. but to be incredibly competitive, way more competitive than we saw this year. You're recruiting at that level. Now is the developmental part and the portal evaluation part, that the two things I think that you missed on this year to keep you from reaching what your potential was.
I was just trying to look this up because as I was looking, I thought I read this, but I wanted to be clear that I saw this. Did Penn State sign 2 players in their class?
You want to know the one team that, in terms of recruiting class rankings, the one team directly behind Penn State? Prairie View A&M. You know the team who's ranked directly above Penn State? North Dakota State. Penn State's in a lot of trouble, man.
I said that to say that, hey,
Capital T.
yeah, the brand, a huge brand, but they fired their coach that obviously players were committing to, and that's not a thing anymore.
Penn State's going to have to hit the portal really hard. Whoever ends up getting that head coaching job, because seemingly every big coaching vacancy in college football has gotten filled, except for Penn State. And they let a guy who was averaging like 10 wins a season walk, or they fired him. They didn't let him walk. They shoot him out the door. They couldn't have got him out of town fast enough. And now you don't know who you're replacing him with. And now I've seen the speculation or people mention, whether it be the text line or Twitter, that maybe their coach that they've got is still coaching, and they don't want the same type of PR firestorm that we've just seen over in Baton Rouge with Lane Kiffin and not coaching a playoff game. But maybe he's still coaching. I find that to be maybe less likely than they've just kind of botched this coaching search. They've now kind of zeroed in on Matt Campbell, which if you can get him, good, but do you fire James Franklin to hire Matt Campbell? I don't think you do. I think they just really Leroy Jenkins this whole thing. And if you know, you know, and have completely lost out on every single plan they had once he.
I'll tell you this, Matt Campbell needs to jump while he got a shot, because his name was hot and he's sort of been coming back to earth for the past, feels like 5 to 6 years.
I feel like he's reached his potential at Iowa State.
I think that might not be a bad spot.
Iowa State is just one of those places too that it's a good football program. They've had some success. But maybe the ceiling for that program is 9 wins. I can't remember another time in my lifetime where they've ever threatened a national championship. They get to Big 12 title games.
And they should be okay with that, just like Penn State should have been okay with what their ceiling is.
Yeah, because it's not the 80s anymore. Long gone. Long gone, the 80s are. So Penn State's in a very precarious position. Now, before we get out of this break, too, I also want to bring back up that South Carolina, if we want more positive Gamecock news, women's basketball team took down Louisville last night, and a game where they really had to sweat it out.
Survived.
They survived. I'm not going to lie, I didn't get to mention this in the morning meeting because I wanted to bring this back up again. If you're watching that game and you saw that shot Louisville had in the waning seconds of the game, as beautifully designed play, I got to give my props to the Louisville coaching staff. That was a beautifully designed play, had a wide open 3. Just missed it. But I think one thing that we're seeing with South Carolina that I can take away now that we've seen them play games against top-notch competition, playing against Texas, playing against Louisville. I'm going to exclude Duke from this narrative because they're 3-6 and probably the most underperforming top 10 women's basketball team in recent memory. But what I've taken away so far is that the offense can generate a lot of really good shots. In those 2 aforementioned games, the loss to Texas and the win last night against Louisville, you're shooting a smidge above 50% at the rim. Not from 2-point range, at the rim. Defensively, you're not what you have been the last couple years. Still really good, but the standard at this program is a whole lot different than just being pretty good defensively. The standard is being elite defensively. I don't know if I've seen that part come to fruition yet as a team defense, because you still have great individual defenders. There's still some extra growth needed this year that I don't think maybe you had to make the last 2 years.
So if zeroing in on a thing that needs to improve / the storyline is going to be, can we make our shots at the rim?
Yes, that's what I'm looking for a lot more now than I thought I would at the beginning of the season. Now so
that's a good news, bad thing. Good news, bad news. Bad news, we're missing shots at the rim. Good news, those are makeable shots.
Yeah, again, because they were 14-28 at the rim against Texas. 14-27 last night against Louisville. Last 2 games, you've engineered 28 and 27 shots at the basket. There are teams in college basketball against the defense that you played that would kill to have that many opportunities at the basket.
Okay, and so when I don't know if she would, but when Coach Staley comes out and says we're close, I'm more inclined to believe her.
Because you're yielding the results.
Because the process has shown that it's just an execution thing away. I'm more inclined to believe that.
And one last thing, too, that I'm looking for once we get a little closer to conference play, how the bench players are able to step up and fill in roles. Because if you look at the minutes last night, now there's no Agot McKeer, and I really like her a lot. I think she's going to be a really good basketball player for them. She didn't play last night, but Isla McDowell had 9 minutes. Maddie McDaniel had 5. Adele Tack had 3.
That's going to be tough all year. McDowell. That's going to be a tough one to parse.
Yeah, McDowell and McDaniel. Yes,
it's going to be a tough one.
I'll have to get better at my enunciating for that. But seeing how, if one of them can break into playing maybe 15 minutes a game can be pretty beneficial. It's conference championship weekend, and I've got a conference championship. Got to be real with you, my friends. The holidays can be really stressful. It's on time, one of my favorite times of the year, but it can be really stressful when it comes to managing gifts you're giving for people or coordinating travel plans. There's a lot to figure out, and there's a lot that can be pretty stressful on you. And one of those things too, especially if you're hosting people this holiday season, is making sure that you have a clean, hostable home, right? Well, Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, they are here to take one of those things off your plate, right? And that is the cleanliness of your home, because it's the season for joy, and an incredibly clean home is a perfect way to bring that joy, and they're going to help you do so with their December promotion. Secure your holiday cleaning this year with $40 per room cleanings, and to make the gift even bigger, Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is allowing you to add a staircase for $1 if you schedule 3 rooms. Sounds pretty good, right? Schedule online at zerorescolumbia.com, and remember, Zero spelled backwards or forwards, it's the right way to clean.
Barrow at Beckman Drive still working that earlier slowdown. Garners Ferry Road near Lower Richland Boulevard. I-20 westbound at Alpine Road. In downtown Columbia, Park Street near Laurel Street still in progress. Sparkleberry Lane near Mallet Hill Road. And one other that they're still trying to get cleared in Elgin, and that's Spears Creek Church Road near Jacob Mill Pond Road. And that rain, it's just going to be wet out there all day today. The rain will be a little bit heavy till lunchtime potentially, and then it could thin out a little bit in the afternoon. But the rain, that's going to be in the forecast for the entire weekend. Some scattered showers tomorrow, few showers on Sunday. 48 for today's high, 51 the rest of the weekend, sitting at 47 right now.
Not necessarily Message Board Mayhem, but thank you to the Miles Agency for sponsoring that all year long. I feel like Message Board Mayhem has been most of the coaching carousel cycle. We've done so much Message Board Mayhem, but there is one message board that I want to dig into right now, and that's PrestonArreston.com message board.
I'm here for it.
Which is a one-man message board. I've heard you have to pay like $500 a month to be able to access this message board. It's pretty exclusive.
Let's go.
All right. The first prompt, the first subject line of this Preston Arreston message board is this. The ACC gets left out of the college football playoff because Duke wins, and it kickstarts a change in how they format their conference for this to never happen again.
ACC's been playing defense. I'm going to go with Preston.
Okay.
First off, let me say, I'm going to go with Preston. But it seems like the ACC is consistently playing defense. They're trying to keep people in. They're trying to stop people from leaving. They're trying to reformulate the conference. They're arguing for automatic bids. They just need to understand that they are, though they sit at the grown-ups table, they don't get a good seat. They're there, but if the SEC and the Big Ten could just sit them at the kids' table, they would.
I think that's the prevailing thought, especially like the SEC and Big Ten they've kind of done their own thing, and they have tried to rig the game enough to where they, as the power brokers of the sport, get more representation in things like the college football playoff, get more, not as autonomy, they all have autonomy, but they have more of a say in just how college athletics are run. Right? And the big struggle with the Big 12 and the ACC is getting it to where they are able to get more representation, or at least as much as possible. This is a nightmare scenario, I think, for the ACC if Duke wins and they get left out of the playoff. And I think the only reasonable thing that they can do after this, because what we have now is already done, right? A 7-5 Duke team is already in your conference title game because of your tiebreaker scenarios. One thing I think we might see is going back to divisions. Because sometimes, yes, the ACC especially had some funky division stuff where it was usually someone like Clemson every year facing off against whatever winner of the other ACC division was.
Some rando.
Yeah, exactly. And it was seemingly one every year, like a different one every year. It had the most parity of any division in any conference in college football. But we had such a movement to move away from divisions that I think we just saw here this season why it could be necessary. Is because when the conferences are so big and bloated and you don't get everybody to play each other on a yearly basis, you can have a result like a 7-5 Duke team that did not play or did not beat anyone in their league with a 500 record or better in the ACC. I'll say that again. Duke was 0-2 against the teams they were tied with or Virginia, because Virginia was clearly number one in that conference. They lost to Virginia. And against all the other teams they were tied with, they had another loss in there. 0-2 against those teams. Every other team they beat in the ACC had a 500 record in the league or worse. And it allowed them
This reminds me of one of my, and I was trying to look it up to make sure I got it right, but the saying is traditions are solutions for forgotten problems. Traditions are solutions for forgotten problems. Meaning, we already solved this. But we forgot it was a thing. So we were like, oh no, let's go divisionless. That would be cool. People from years ago, from the graves, are saying, no, we had that problem before. That's why we created divisions.
Yes.
But we've been so far removed from that we don't understand that. And I think we're just going to end up going back to that because then you have these types of situations. Even, to be honest, even the SEC championship, all of these kind of don't have the same juice when they're not East versus West or Coastal versus Atlantic or whatever the case is. I like the idea of two sides meeting each other in a final as opposed to what we have now in the SEC championship. It's not, I don't know if these are the two best teams, but we don't know that because they didn't go through similar gauntlets.
Preston or Reston, BYU is the weekend's ultimate spoiler because if they win, that will take away a bid from another team. The B in BYU this weekend will stand for bid thief.
If BYU wins, Notre Dame is out. Is that my thinking?
I don't think they'll drop Texas Tech out because Texas Tech would have 2 losses. However, Texas Tech is number 4 right now. Could you justify dropping them enough spots to get out of the college football playoff?
No, because they lost to Texas, and I wouldn't say that that's a loss that you would commit as a bad loss or whatever that means.
For BYU, yeah, because BYU's a top 15 team and they're the first team out actually, as the way it stands. BYU is the first team out. I think BYU would be the ultimate bid thief if they're able to win, secure a position.
Yeah, Preston, I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, and to be honest, I would be happy to see that too.
To see the committee have to make decisions and not have it lined up perfectly. I mean, that's probably the most controversy we could get in the sport right now, which I'm here for a little bit of chaos. BYU could be a good agent of chaos. Forgot to even mention them earlier.
And unlike Duke, they can actually go and do some things.
Yes.
Right? So
I think BYU's good. I think that is a good
Duke is just
team.
strictly an agent of chaos because if they got in, it'd be really cool. It's like a gag. It's like, oh, that was cool, but now what? Now we got to clean everything up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, that was fun. We shaving creamed the whole window. That was so funny. Now we got to clean it up. And Duke is there.
It's like the people that have their senior pranks. They put like a farm animal on top of the school. Like, that's hilarious, but you got to get them down now.
Exactly. So, I mean, while I am cheering for that, BYU can actually go into the playoff and make some noise.
Yeah, they could be pretty dangerous. Preston arrested. Georgia gets the Alabama monkey off their back.
Preston.
Calling it now.
Team Crush Tuesday. Kirby has a twinkle in his eye. He says it's important. I think they get it done.
I want to agree. I want to, because I do think on paper Georgia's better right now. But I thought Georgia was better going into that game in September. And they had it at home. And for some reason, for the second straight year, Kirby Smart and his defense goes brain dead the first 3 or 4 possessions, and they have to dig themselves out of a 14-point hole. They had to dig themselves out of a 28-point hole last year when they played in Tuscaloosa and still about messed around and won that game. I am so intrigued. This is one of those games where, there's some big games where, like, okay, I can pop in at halftime because I'm watching another game before that. I can pop in at halftime and I'll be locked in for the second half. I am so locked in for the first 3 possessions of this game because if Alabama scores in the first couple possessions, we're having a Groundhog's Day type deal here with Georgia when it comes to playing Alabama. Because for some reason, Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, or Kalen DeBoer specifically, because Grubb wasn't there last year, but Kalen DeBoer has pantsed Kirby Smart in the first 3 possessions of this matchup the last 2 times they've played. The only times they've played. What does Kirby Smart learn from that defensively? Because now you have another week to prepare for it. How much better does he get them and get that defense ready to play in this game? That way, Kalen DeBoer can't just come up with something they haven't seen like it seemingly has the last couple of years and get out to an insurmountable lead.
Yeah, I think maybe hope. Maybe hope might the word. Maybe I don't think. Maybe I just hope.
You want it.
Maybe that's what I want to happen.
Because, I mean, Georgia to me has played the best football in the last 6 weeks in the SEC, of anyone in the SEC. I think he'd be a very fitting champion. And what Gunnar Stockton's been able to do at the quarterback position has got me out of what we had as the Haynes King tier of, I don't know if this guy's a good quarterback, but he's a dog. Gunnar Stockton was there, but I'm ready to graduate him out of that too, saying, look, this guy's a really good quarterback.
Yeah, I think so too. He's made some throws. I mean, even early in the season against Tennessee, he made some throws that have elevated them. He's done some things that have been, and the offense is built around him. his skills, his unique skill set, the offense is built around him, and that they go as he goes.
I know Preston wants to see Georgia pull this thing off on Saturday. He also wants to see his Somerville Green Wave pull it off on Saturday. We'll see what Lou Bajak has to think about that coming up next here in the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Integrated Media. It's championship weekend. What are you waiting for? If you would have called Integrated Media, you could have been watching all the conference championships on your outdoor setup. And even if it was supposed to rain this weekend, that wouldn't have mattered because your Sonos outdoor speakers are waterproof. You can get outdoor Samsung Terrace TVs. You can get speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors, so you can have all your devices running at the same time. Does not matter from home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone. Integrated Media is who you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
And taking a peek at those traffic conditions again, Sparkleberry Lane near Mallet Hill Road, also I-77 southbound at Percival, I-26 eastbound at Harbison Boulevard, I-20 westbound at Alpine Road. 2 more to keep you aware of: Garnish Ferry Road near Lower Richland Boulevard, and Faro at Beckman. And that rain, it is going to stay with us today. Heavier chances through lunchtime, then it'll still be here, but maybe not quite as heavy. 48 is the high we're expecting. 51 tomorrow and Sunday with scattered showers possible Saturday and a few showers on Sunday. So right now, cloudy. At 47, there is a little bit of rain across the Midlands.
The last time this year, our man Lou Bajak from the state newspaper is going to join us to talk some high school football. And Lou's segments and our high school football segments brought to you by Paymore. Need fast cash? Paymore is Columbia's go-to spot for fast cash in your tech. Visit them in Harbison and Sand Hills. And we're not going to bury the lead here, Lou, because sitting to my left, Somerville, former Somerville player, graduate, native, Preston Thorne, watched his Somerville Green Wave roll all over James Island last week, and now they get the final boss in Dutch Fork. How nervous should Preston be about this game? How optimistic should he be that his Somerville Green Wave can pull it off?
I think he should be a little bit more nervous than optimistic, but I don't know. I picked James Island last week, so my picks might not be. But it should be. It's an interesting matchup. It's a rematch. It's a little different than last year. Somerville was more of a passing team last year. They run the ball a lot more. Max Stafford kind of has taken over the quarterback spot. He came back. I think he was at IMG Academy. He's back in Charleston now. They have a good running back in Williams and one of the best receivers in the state in Kelly Murray. So it should be fun. But the strength, running the ball has been tough on Dutch Fork. They've shut down 2 really good running games the last 2 weeks in Burns and Dorman. So Somerville's going to have to make some plays in the passing game and for them to have a chance tomorrow night.
And that's 5A Division 1. The 5A Division 2 championship will be played tonight. That'll be going on as Justin Hall and I are live in Orangeburg. We'll be on site for the state championship games. That one's in particular Northwestern against Irmo. Now, Northwestern coming off a 51-19 evisceration of Indian Land, and Irmo playing against the Fighting Chris Deerings at Berkeley and dropping the hammer 44-6. Both teams coming in off of really impressive blowout wins against great teams at home. It feels like we have unstoppable force and immovable object here. Where are you kind of leaning in this one, Lou?
I picked Irmo just because, I think Northwestern definitely has better offense. Last year's game was a classic. It was back and forth, back and forth. I don't think if Irmo's to win tonight, they're going to have to be more ball control, run the ball, pound the short passing, run the ball with Amir White and Drayvon Dobson, get Malik Miller out with maybe some sweeps on some screens, and then maybe take a chance down deep and win the game up front, which is where the strength is on the offensive and defensive lines. You got Jaden Bryant, Major Taylor on defense among their strong. Jamar Grissett, 7 interceptions, and offensive line, you got Nate Carson, and hopefully Bryson Moore is back tonight. He's missed the last few games at the tackle spot, and they like to run and pound you. So it's a little different Irmo team. Coach Brand talked about that this week, but they're going to have to ground and pound, take long chunks, drives to keep that Northwestern offense, which is really good, and means at quarterback his numbers are really eye-popping.
And now in 4A, this game's going to be played, it looks like, at noon tomorrow. In terms of games, I think might be the most evenly matched that we see. I think this one's up there, and there's a ton of star power in this game. But in the 4A championship, South Point and South Florence are getting to meet the number one player in the state, according to a lot of recruiting services, Jazavian Currents, playing quarterback for South Point, has for a majority of the year. That's like 90% of the year. And then South Florence, who had one of the more impressive wins, beating Gray Collegiate pretty big, 55-14. This one is one I think might be the hardest one for me to be able to pick, Lou. Where are you kind of sitting on this one?
Yeah, I think this is the best game of the weekend, at least on paper, has a chance to be. I picked South Point. I were able to see him a couple times this year. South Florence, though, I mean, 4 straight state championship appearances, pretty special. But I just think the weapons, Currents, R.J. Brown running the ball. At defensive front, I don't know if South Florence has played. I mean, they played a pretty tough schedule, but that defensive front with Tillman and Gunn and those guys, and then you throw in Currents on defense. I mean, I think he got five interceptions, 81 tackles to go along with, I think, over 4,000 yards of offense, and that he's going to be special. I think he has a chance to put on a pretty good show. But South Florence, they got some weapons too. Amari Reeves has had a huge postseason. Defensively and on special teams, and I love their quarterback Messiah Jackson. He's kind of a bulldozer. He'll run you over, especially when they put the ball in his hands, and I think it has a chance to be a pretty fun game tomorrow.
Now the first one today at noon, Oceanside Collegiate in 3A, the only team to beat Dutch Fork this year, is taking on Belton Honeypath, and if you know me, I'm down with BHP. Do you think BHP's got a good chance, especially after an impressive win against Powdersville last week, to beat the one team in 3A that has been the ultimate buzzsaw so far this year?
Yeah, I went with Oceanside. I just think they're really good. I love their quarterback. He's been there. I think this is second or third year starting. He's been in these state championship games. They're going for 3 in a row, 1 in 2A, 1 in 3A last year, and see if they can cap it off this year. They had a tough schedule early. They played Irmo. They played a team out of Georgia. They lost their first 2, but then they've just been rolling and have that close win over Dutch Fork in their pocket as well. So it should be a good game. Belton Honeypath, one of the 2 undefeateds coming in to this weekend. But I just think Oceanside's with their weapons, especially on offense, it could be too much.
And now in 2A, we have Hampton County against Strom-Thurmond. Which game are you more intrigued with? Hampton County and Strom-Thurmond in 2A, or going over to 1A, are you more intrigued with Lamar and Bamberg-Earhart?
Ooh, I think it's a tie. I mean, I think both are really, really good. Are you talking about Bamberg? You want to talk about numbers. Their quarterback, Brian McMillan, 66 touchdowns. I forget, over 4 ton of yards on offense. They're really strong. Corey Crosby's done a great job. They're undefeated. Lamar, though, Zori Pierce, I'm looking forward to seeing him play. Their quarterback kind of does it all. And then you said you got Hampton County, kind of a new team, and they pick a combination of Edisto and Hampton High. And they've been strong in their 3 years, making it to semifinals couple 2 years ago, and then state championship here. They got a great running back in Singletary. And Strom-Thurmond, they probably will bring a ton of people with their fan base and that. It's been a while. They've only won. They've been so close so many times, and now to get there this year, Andrew Webb, their coach, is a former Saluda assistant, I think, on that state championship team. So it should be fun to watch. They were able to escape against Fairfield Central on that 2-point conversion. So yeah, I think it's gonna be close to see with interest. Maybe Hampton County and Strom, just to see just the atmosphere. I think both communities are really going to bring a ton of fans.
Before we get you out here, Lou, I beg your pardon, 66 touchdowns? Did you say 66? Did I hear that correct?
Yeah, combined. Yeah. I forget what the yardage. I wrote it. I mean, it's in preview. Yeah, he's Brian McMillan. He's really good. So, and Bamberg's been, I think they're averaging 545 yards per game. I mean, they've been hammering people.
66 touchdowns. That's absurd. That's remarkable. Lou Bajak, at Lou at the State. Highly recommend giving him a follow this weekend to be able to see everything that's going on. Lou's going to be in Orangeburg. Justin and I will be in Orangeburg. Lou, looking forward to seeing you tonight.
All right. Looking forward to it.
See you, Lou.
Oh, good stuff there from Lou Bajak. Says Preston should be more nervous than optimistic.
You know, I'm not nervous. Because we already mentioned that all the pressure's on them. All the pressure's on them. The final boss, they have to defend. We're chasing.
Oh, see, yeah, they are the the hunted.
That's right. We're hunting.
You're hunters.
Going to get them. We're not used to being in this position at Somerville. We're usually the ones that are getting hunted, but now we're hunting.
Oh, that's an exciting proposition.
Do I sound convinced?
No. Well, you might have sound convinced over the radio. If you're watching on YouTube stream, you might not have looked as convincing as you might have sounded. As always, Lou's brought to you by Pay More. We'll have our winners coming up next. In a career. Lou said that, and my ears perk. I'm like, wait, did you say 66 touchdowns? My brother in Christ, did you just say 66?
Bamberg is super cool. Like as a town.
Is it?
Awesome. Awesome town.
My favorite thing about them is they've, out of all the fan bases of like high schools in like the state, because a lot of them will have one person that calls in every week, right? Or without games is calling, giving in updates. We got about 4 people that have been calling in for Bamberg updates and have been asking us to talk about Bamberg more.
They're serious.
They are.
No, they're for real.
Is it a small town? Like
Yes.
everything shuts down?
Yeah, everybody's going to the game for sure. It's right on the other side of Orangeburg. It's a really cool town, and they take it serious. That's probably I think 2A is probably my my favorite football region. They all those towns like Bamberg, Strom Thurmond, they for real.
Yeah. So is your Green Wave gonna overcome the Dutch Fork curse?
No.
What was that?
No,
Mike saw it. Tell Jen that Mike saw it.
Probably keep it on the second screen while I'm watching the American Championship. Nice. Yeah, I really like LA Knights. Yeah, sadly. I've been watching the Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix. It's really good. I'm on episode 5. I like binged the first 4 last Sunday. Yeah. My dad said the Attitude Era was his favorite. Like whenever they were talking about that, my dad's like, "This was the best." Came up in the Russian era, so I got into it about the mid 2000s. Yeah, a lot of fun. Speaking of Russian era, Randy Orton's supposed to be back on TV tonight. Yeah, so we were Caleb who works here at the wrestling kids. Okay. She asked us something. Sorry. Survivor Series. I think that's the rumor. Yeah, she was like, I think it's Randy Orton. Yeah. Because they keep like teasing that he's gonna turn heel like Cody. Right. Because he keeps like taking up his stage and just looking at it, but they haven't done it. But that would be a phenomenal reaction. You Randy Orton. Yeah. When he puts everything into it. Oh yeah. I watched like all the WWE libraries all on Peacock. So I watched the documentary Becoming the American Nightmare. And my friend Ethan said that I should watch the Randy Orton one too. He said the one about CM Punk and the one about Randy Orton. He said the one about Punk was doing his first title reign. Yeah, that was like
Thomas.
2012.
Are our mics on? Are our mics on? Yeah. Turn them off during breaks. and we got winners for you, Coach. Our winners, as always, sponsored by the Golden Spur. Want people that want to win. And I've got a winning number. I haven't come up with a good winning number in a while.
Okay.
My winning number for today's show, Preston Thorne, 1,297. That is the amount of consecutive games LeBron James had in his career of scoring at least 10-plus points. That streak got broken last night in Toronto. Lakers were able to get a win, but LeBron shot 4 for 17. Here is just a snapshot at how long 1,297 consecutive NBA games is. The last time he did not score more than 10 points in an NBA game, Preston Thorne, the iPhone wasn't invented. The reigning Rookie of the Year in the NBA was Chris Paul.
Funny.
And Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin was not the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach.
Yo. Okay, all right. Hey, LeBron. You seen what just happened to your boy Chris Paul. Let's not let this happen to you.
I believe when that streak started, I was in the 6th grade.
Yeah, and again, this is just one of those things where somebody who's been around for so long that we forget how long that actually is. Decades of dominance. So that's wild that was. It's so long that it wasn't even. It was just a given. Oh yeah, LeBron obviously scored double digits tonight. He played, didn't he? So
yeah.
If he played,
he scored double digits, and he's playing 20+ years.
I'm gonna go with another number.
Oh,
Go with numbers. 10, as in 10 straight years that Dutch Fork has gone to the state championship.
An entire decade's worth in a row.
In the same vein as LeBron's. You can count on LeBron scoring double digits and Tom Knotts and them boys going to the state championship. 10 straight years in a row because Tom Knotts is the GOAT. But we're going to have to summon the spirit of another GOAT. John McKissick, give us powers from the beyond. We're going to need him. Go Wave.
Oh, who knows? Langston might be listening, he might not, but we're going to workshop this bit because he did lose the bet, and the bet was that he's got to wear a customized John McKissick shirt. Mm-hmm. We're going to send him 2 pictures of Coach McKissick, and we're going to tell him to pick one to put on the T-shirt. Whatever he picks, we'll do the opposite.
Mm-hmm. I got plenty.
There are plenty to choose from, and we're going to customize a banger, and I'm very excited to see it and force him to wear it and post it on social media for everybody to get to consume. Sorry, Langston.
Yeah, it's all right. They'll be all right.
He'll be fine.
As I said earlier in the show, if you're practicing on Thanksgiving, you had a successful season. Congratulations to the Trojans.
Look at you. Very, very sportsmanlike. Sportsmanship is always a winner. But another Golden Spur winner for today, Taysom Hill. Because I think we found our Sneaky Athletic Player of the Year award. We found its namesake. And I think you've already been willing to crown Colton Joseph, the quarterback at Old Dominion, the Taysom Hill Award winner for 2025. Finalists were, of course, Taysom Hill, Cooper DeJean, Julian Edelman, Rex Burkhead, Christian McCaffrey.
But Taysom has the dual threat ability.
Yes, he had a cannon,
and he could throw the rock. So yeah, that's definitely going to be the Taysom Hill Award winner for this year is Colton Joseph.
Okay, we have established.
Who's on?
Beats out Gunnar Stockton, Haynes King.
Gunnar Stockton's there, though.
Oh, Gunnar Stockton, Sneaky Athletic Player of the Year.
Let me rescind that. Depending on the results from this weekend, Gunnar Stockton may be able to clinch the award.
So you're not ready to give Colton Joseph the Taysom Hill Award just yet?
Not yet.
But finalist. So if we
yes.
we'll vote on it.
We'll vote
like most good awards, Haynes King, Gunnar Stockton, Colton Joseph, any other names?
I'm going to go with another winner. Another winner with another number. And the number is 0. And that is the number that James's 4-year-old son looked up and saw how many points the Gamecocks had on the board. He said, "Daddy, the Gamecocks have 0." He said, "Yes, my son."
It's so funny because he made a promise that he knew he couldn't keep, and once the words leave your mouth, you cannot bring them out or grab them and bring them back in.
Yes, my son, the Gamecocks have 0. Welcome to the world. You are now a man.
James, also a winner for calling in to give us an update.
Absolutely.
We were wanting to know what that update was because he made that proclamation to his son and then called in to tell us that he made that promise. And you already know that I was thinking about James a lot during that game, especially after that pick six. I said, "Oh, buddy, reality's going to hit."
Good thing little man was asleep.
So he will never have the memory
It didn't even happen.
of watching that pick six. So that's a winner. We'll have a lot of winners tonight over in Orangeburg for the state championships. We have a lot of winners in the show. Tyler Head and Jack Vilcher, you just watched walk by. He's a winner too, and they're coming up next. Show of talking about winners without discussing my friends over at Midstate Roofing, because they've been winners for nearly 30 years, and they've been winners because they've been that proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And that proven history is the ultimate assurance that the professionals over at Midstate are going to give you every single time that proper advice, service, and most importantly, the results to the very specific needs of your facility. One of my favorite things about Midstate Roofing is the extra protection you get because you can protect that roof with a maintenance contract. So go ahead, give them a call today, 803-356-1919, the same number where you can call even after hours and still be able to speak to an on-call technician for whatever roofing and waterproofing issues your building is facing. And you can always hit them up online too at midstateroofing.com. Just remember, if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.